And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Hello, I'm National Weather Service meteorologist Peter Chan with your Alaska Aviation Weather Outlook on this Sunday, November 24th, 2024. And this outlook is for Monday and Tuesday, the beginning of the week leading up to Thanksgiving. And we are going to have extensive IFR conditions across much of the mainland as the result of low pressure that has worked its way from the western Bering Sea inland into the west central interior by early Monday morning. We have areas of moderate to locally heavy snow, especially between the Brooks Range and Alaska Range. There are a number of winter storm warnings, winter weather advisories in effect for areas of the interior, including in and around Fairbanks. Several inches of snow going to fall. Some of the heaviest snowfall was forecast here for the west-southwestern portion of the Brooks Range, but even in through the central interior, a number of locations could easily pick up 4 to 8 inches of snow. Now, the low pressure on Monday morning will be just inland here in the western interior. Frontal system pushing across the Alaska Range, a weak secondary low in the northwestern Gulf. And by the time we get into Monday afternoon, we'll start to see some IFR conditions spreading eastward along the northeastern Gulf Coast, Yakutat Bay into the northern Panhandle around Chilkoot and White. Areas of IFR, especially there along the Alaska Range and extending up through 40-mile Gold Country, Fairbanks, Yukon Flats, lingering along the spine of the Brooks Range and the North Slope for Monday afternoon. And then Tuesday morning, we find still some areas of IFR around the central eastern Alaska Range, Copper River Basin, Wrangell, St. Elias Mountains, and then spreading into the northern half of the Panhandle. This area is under a winter storm watch for late Monday night through Tuesday into Tuesday night. Long duration snow event setting up as this weak low in the northern Gulf slides southeastward. Some of this overall moisture associated from the initial system coming in off the Bering will then turn southeastward. The high pressure ridge that has been over the Yukon Northwest Territories weakening and heading southeastward along the Canadian Rockies. So weather conditions will be deteriorating, especially later Monday night, Tuesday into Wednesday here across the Panhandle as a result of that system. Meanwhile, on the backside, as these couple of systems begin to push into Canada, into the Yukon and Northwest Territories on the backside, colder northeast, northwest flow will draw down colder air along with generally fairer skies for the interior. So we expect by Tuesday afternoon more in the way of VFR conditions across the mainland. But again, with the areas of snow heading southeastward across the Panhandle on Tuesday, we expect IFR conditions, especially there along the interchannel, intercoastal mountains. We did have a system brush the Aleutians with some rain and some gusty winds, but nothing too terribly strong. And as I mentioned, leading up to Thanksgiving Day, we're going to see more in the way of clear skies, a little colder temperatures across the mainland, and that will carry us through not just Thursday Thanksgiving, but into Friday and likely the early weekend. So looking at what we have coming up here for Monday, IFR conditions, Anaktuvuk Pass trying to become MVFR later in the day, but IFR conditions lingering along the north entrance and up into the north slope. Same thing, Atigun Pass, IFR conditions Monday morning giving way to MVFR conditions later in the day, but IFR conditions will lag and hold on to the north entrance and as you fly in toward the north slope. Lake Clark and Merrill, generally IFR conditions expected throughout the day on Monday. We're going to have that front pushing through, moisture spilling over the Alaska Range, some snow, lower ceilings visibility. Rainy Pass may be able to hold on to MVFR conditions throughout the day Monday. That's questionable. And the further north, Windy Pass, generally IFR conditions should prevail on Monday, as they will at Isabel Pass. And then way to the east, Mentasta Pass, VFR becoming MVFR. And as we drop down across the Copper River Basin, there will be areas of either IFR or MVFR. But Tanita Pass starting out Monday morning with IFR conditions becoming MVFR. And Portage Pass, IFR becoming MVFR Monday afternoon into Monday evening. And Chilkoot and White will start out Monday morning VFR, but IFR conditions arrive as moisture increases from the north and west associated with that low pressure over the northern Gulf, and that's going to be riding southeastward just off of the outer coast of the Panhandle as we go through Tuesday into Wednesday. So freezing levels aloft on Monday morning will bump upwards over the Gulf to 6,000 feet. You have to get way down, though, into the North Pacific, well south of Kodiak Island and the Alaska Peninsula. We have some freezing levels aloft at 8,000 feet, so there is generally some warmer air out over the Gulf, and then lagging back toward the central Aleutians into the lower portion of the Bering Sea. Freezing surface line runs to between St. Lawrence and Nunavik Island up along the lower Yukon coast, and then up the Yukon River a bit, and then dipping back down as we get up toward, the Anchorage Bowl and Matsu Valley, and running then down along the outer coast of the Panhandle. And the greatest threat for icing, moderate icing, will be across areas of the interior. We have some lower ceilings, visibilities, areas of light to moderate snow within the precipitation producing clouds. So you get up into those cloud layers, and that's where you could start to pick up moderate icing anywhere here through the much of the mainland. And further south, freezing levels are a little higher, above 4,000 feet. Areas of south central, and you get up into those clouds making the snow, and you run into some icing there. And then an area back out here where we had that little bump in temperatures aloft. So areas of the central Aleutians above 8,000 feet where there is rain falling at the surface. Looking at this jet stream level, this is 30,000 feet. We have a core of 100 knot to west-northwest winds over the western portion of the Gulf, and extends back to northwesterly winds across the northern Bering into eastern Russia. That's the predominant, what we'd say, belt of winds in the upper levels. At mid-levels, 9,000 feet, 700 millibars, we still have that general pattern of northwest winds coming across eastern Russia, northern Bering, and then dipping down here into the Gulf with a maximum out in the central Gulf upwards of 45 to 50 knots, then coming onshore in through the Panhandle. And at 3,000 feet, we find that there's some stronger winds along the west coast, 30, 40, even locally 45 knots through some of the gaps there. And as we look at the Gulf, northwest winds generally between 25 to 35 knots behind me. There is more of an easterly flow, but rather strong, upwards of 45 to 65 knots just north of the western and central Aleutians across the lower Bering Sea. And so as a result, when we look at where turbulence will be on Monday, we anticipate certainly out here across the Aleutians, especially the central western Aleutians, surface to 3,000 feet, moderate turbulence. And then as we go further up here through areas of the interior, especially on the north side of the Alaska Range into southwest interior, west central and central interior, some pockets of moderate turbulence, surface to 4,000 feet along areas of the lower Chukchi Sea, northern western Seward Peninsula, east side of St. Lawrence Island. There could be some moderate turbulence, surface to 3,000 feet, and then we do expect with northwest flow an area here over Lower Cook Inlet, Kennedy Entrance. There may be some moderate turbulence in that area, quite common with those northwest winds in the wake of a couple of systems. And that would be on Monday, surface to 5,000 feet. So overall, once we get these couple of systems out of here, the weather will be improving by Thanksgiving Day, certainly Wednesday or so across much of the mainland and in through the Panhandle by Thanksgiving Day on Thursday. The Panhandle, though, has to get by this prolonged period of light to moderate snow that'll add up as we go from late Monday night through Tuesday and Wednesday. So stay tuned to later forecasts.